All right, hello everybody. Welcome to live deck building with BGM. I'm BGM, or Bigger Gayer Magic. I'm a video editor and streamer, and on lives we do live deck building or community deck building. We got suggested Hauken, Jacob Hauken, Inspector. It's a legendary 2-drop little blue inspector creature. Excuse me, human advisor creature. It's got an activated ability where we tap to draw a card and then we exile a card face down, kind of underneath Hauken, and then we have the opportunity to pay 6 mana, and if we pay 6 mana for our boy Jacob, Jacob will transform into Hauken's Insight, which is a legendary enchantment that gives us an upkeep trigger to exile the top card of our library face down, and we want to have a bunch of cards exiled face down because with this enchantment, we are able to cast one of them or play a land per turn. This was suggested by Ninomoki on Discord. Thank you, Ninomoki, for this commander suggestion for live deck building. So I'm thinking for this thing, right? So Jacob is 2 mana, right? Jacob's 2 mana. Jacob needs 6 mana to do his little trigger and flip to where we can start getting our free spells. So when I'm thinking of Jacob Hauken, I'm thinking big things, like we're definitely running Omniscience in this thing, probably like a Mind's Dilation to get triggers off of other people's spells. Jacob feels a little bit like a challenging build. Do you guys have any suggestions? Hey everybody, how does one recommend a card to build? Definitely not Liam. Hey, if you would like to join the Bigger Gayer Discord, you could head to the live deck building commander suggestion box. It's one of the channels inside the Discord server, and that's how you could leave suggestions for live deck building. Thank you very much for asking, Liam. I appreciate it. So I'm thinking Omniscience off the rip for this thing. We want to run Omniscience. We want to cast free shit, and we're gonna do it with Omniscience. Omniscience is like it's 10 mana. It's a blue enchantment, and it says that you may cast spells from your hand without paying for them. Period. Full stop. You no longer care about mana as long as the spells are in your hand. So. So we could use Jacob Hauken's activated ability, draw a card, exile Omniscience from our hands, kind of put it underneath, and then we can later activate Jacob Hauken, and then Jacob will transform into his enchantment side, and then we can cast one free thing per turn, and one of those things could be that they're Omniscience for a total of 10 mana. It could be a great time. And that's Omniscience. That's what I think of when I saw Jacob Hauken. Ancient Silver Dragon. Hey, Gunner, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by, Gunner. You want us to run that Ancient Silver? Ancient Silver Dragon, it's like a 7-drop. Excuse me, it's an 8-drop? 8-drop? Yeah, no. Ancient Silver Dragon is blue. It's 8 mana. It's a flying 8/8. And when this thing connects, dealing combat damage, we roll ourselves a d20, and then we draw cards equal to that amount. But once we resolve this trigger, we ain't got no max hand size for the rest of the game. So this thing's gonna draw us a ton of cards. It itself is a flying body in the air that swings for 8. That's not irrelevant in a game of Commander. And also it's 8 mana, so it's a great thing to exile with Hauken and then get it off Hauken's Insight after we transform our commander. This is a great little suggestion, Gunnar. Thank you. Yeah, hell yeah, we'll cheat that thing out. I feel like 8 mana is like the minimum we want for our bombiest bombs, because we need to spend 2 mana for Jacob to cast him outright, and then we need to spend 6 mana to transform him. So I feel like 8 would be the low end for this. Let's talk about Mind's Dilation. Mind's Dilation is a card. It's blue. It's an enchantment. It's 7 mana, and it says whenever an opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, that player exiles the top card of his or her library. If it's a non-land card, we can cast it. This will get us free spells off the tops of other people's library. I'm not sure how many big bomby creatures we can stuff into Jacob without making him kind of like a braids, like a mono blue braid style thing. This thing's cool though, because it's going to get us spells for free off our opponents whenever they do something for the first time each turn. Also, if people are playing instants on the board and we're getting triggers off Mind's Dilation during... Nope, it has to be during the opponent's turn, so instants aren't going to quite work like that. But it's still going to get us free spells. It's a $6 Mythic enchantment from the Eldritch Moon expansion. Gunner, shame on you. You be a good boy. You clean that room, Gunner. Hey Kiki's a badass, how's it going? Hey everybody, tonight we are building Jacob Hauken. Jacob Hauken is a little 2-drop legendary human advisor. It's got an activated ability where we can tap him, we can draw a card and discard a card, and then the card we are discarding actually goes into exile, and then we can use Jacob Hauken's flip side, Hauken's Insight, to exile more cards that are upkeep triggers and also cast one free thing or play a free land per turn. It's cool. It's mono blue. It was suggested by Ninomoki over on Discord. Thank you, Ninomoki, for suggesting Jacob Hauken. How's it going, Zombie Kidney? It's going good. We need some suggestions for our mono blue commander. And when I see a creature that taps, has one of them tappy activated abilities, I think Patriarch's Seal. Patriarch's Seal is a 3-drop colorless rock. It taps for 1 mana of any color, but Patriarch's Seal is a great little rock. It's cheap. Oh shit, this thing is $7. It used to be cheap. This card used to be bulk. It's a 3-drop rock that can tap for any color, or you can untap legendary creatures. So if we're not ready to flip our commander over into Hauken's Insight quite yet, because the way Hauken works is we tap him, we can pay 6, we can flip him into his enchantment version, which grants us a free spell each turn. But if we don't want to flip him quite yet, we can use Patriarch's Seal to untap him, and then draw another card and exile another thing underneath Jacob. I like Patriarch's Seal. I run my Patriarch's Seal in my Esper Tappy activated ability style deck. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend a Patriarch's Seal. I wish it was cheaper though, honestly. $7 is a lot for a fucking uncommon 3-drop rock. Are you kidding? Like, Jin-Gitaxias, Core Augur. Let's play a game changer with Jin-Gitaxias, Core Augur, suggested by Zombie Kidney over on Twitch. Jin-Gitaxias, Core Augur is on the Game Changers list. The Game Changers list is a list of cards in Commander that kind of change the vibe of your Commander game. There's certain brackets that allow certain numbers of Game Changers, and let's talk about this guy. He's 9 mana. He's a legendary 5/4 Praetor that flashes itself in, and at the beginning of your end step, you draw 7 cards, and each opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 7. So the way that you'll often see a Jin-Gitaxias Core Augur played is they'll flash it in during someone's end step so that they have to discard their hand at their end step. It's a bummer. The way it doesn't feel too OP to me specifically though, because the way that this is worded, if someone's got a Reliquary Tower or if someone already has maximum hand size, it doesn't do anything. And there are so many things, it's so uncommon to see a card that increases your hand size by a couple cards. In hand size, Jin ain't doing shit to you. All right, I think that's how you spell it. Hey man, how's the Felix deck go? The Felix deck was cool. The Felix deck was last night. If you'd like to see what we put in the Felix deck, Space Bean. Yeah, wasn't it Space? Are you Space Mans on Discord, Space Bean? Yeah, we did it yesterday. It's on YouTube if you want to check it out. We saw a lot of things. Something we discovered about Felix 5 Boots is that Double Strike goes absolutely ham in Felix 5 Boots because of his triggers. Double Strike meaning that it does first strike and regular combat damage means that the deal damage triggers happen twice, even without Felix on the battlefield. And then if Felix is there, you're getting like quadruple triggers. I think that's how you say, hey man, how's the Felix deck? Yeah, I apologize for my Phyrexian Oil Blood. Is Phyrexian Oil Blood a card, or is that just you suggesting Jin-Gitaxias? I'm gonna assume it's you suggesting Jin-Gitaxias. So we did Mind Installation, we did Omniscience. Let's do a Planner Bridge. So I imagine the way a Jacob Hauken runs is that you'll probably have some spicy Eldrazi's. Eldrazi's are big, game-ending, colorless creatures. They're really great to stuff into decks if you need high-end, powerful game-ending creatures. They are often seen in mono blue where you're cheating them into play. I have no idea why we are in green or whatever. Planner Bridge. Planner Bridge is the card we're looking up. Planner Bridge kind of is the go-to colorless way to do Jacob Hauken shit, except this thing is a little bit spicier because it's a 6-drop, and then you can activate it for 8 mana, and then you can find a permanent in your deck and shit it directly onto the battlefield. This thing's very cool. If you can cheat it out and you can get that 8 mana, activate it a few times, maybe you untap this, maybe you make infinite mana and you untap this infinitely and you end the game. I don't know your life. But I imagine this thing could go pretty well into a Jacob Hauken deck. Ooh, the Lumberwolf wants us to run Fibblethip the Lost. Fibblethip. Fibblethip the Lost. Fibblethip the Lost is a 2-drop legendary 50-cent homunculus 1/1. When Fibblethip the Lost enters the battlefield, draw a card. If it entered from your library or was cast from your library, draw 2 cards instead. When this thing becomes the target of a spell, shuffle it into its owner's library. Okay, this one's kind of silly, goofy, funny. I imagine it could be pretty fun in a Jacob Hauken deck. I imagine it's just going to function like a little bit of card draw. We're not trying to really cast this thing for free. It's going to exist in the deck, get us card draw, be a body. And that's why I imagine Fibblethip is for. Fibblethip is very fun. And if you were wondering where the phrase Fibblethip comes from, Fibblethip is the sound that cards make. This is the Fibblethip. It's an onomatopoeia. Fibblethip. It's the sound of cards they make when you flick them against the table. Fibblethip. Ooh, you want us to run that Sphinx of the Second Sun. Kiki wants us to run that Sphinx of the Second Sun. Sphinx of the Second Sun sounds blue. I'm not familiar. Okay, Sphinx of the Seventh Sun. 8 mana. Wow, that is really rad art. Okay, it's a 6/6 flyer. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, there's an additional beginning phase after this phase, meaning that you get to untap, draw, and upkeep. Cool. So if we have something that cares about upkeep triggers, this could be a very cool include. If we want to just untap and draw multiple cards, this is a cool include. It's also a relevant 6/6 body. It's 8 mana, so that means this is on the high end. So we want to be exiling this thing from our hand with Jacob so that we can cheat it out for free using Jacob's flip side, Hauken's Insight. Hauken's Insight is a legendary enchantment that gives us an upkeep trigger to exile a card face down. And Hauken's Insight lets us play a land or cast a spell for free each turn without paying for it. It's the transformed version of our commander. Hell yeah, Sphinx of the Second Sun, great suggestion. Ooh, Zombie wants us to run that Delver of Secrets. Delver of Secrets, is that the lab guy who becomes a bug person? Yeah, this guy becomes a bug. This guy gets real buggy. He's a 1-drop 1/1 blue human wizard. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card. If an instant or sorcery is revealed this way, you transform him into this human insect 3/2 flyer. It's interesting. I mostly remember this card, and because of its really fascinating and disturbing art, it itself, like Jacob, is a flip card. If we have cards that care about transforming, or if we're doing a transform style deck, this feels like a pretty approachable way to get another flippable creature. A flying 3/2 isn't especially impactful in Commander, in my personal opinion, but a flying blocker can sometimes be the difference between you winning and losing a game, and this can do that. All right, and our next suggestion is Ew. We're going to talk about Time Stretch. So I personally, as a casual Commander player, casual Commander baby, do not appreciate extra turn spells. I don't like their vibes. I'm not telling anybody how to play. I'm definitely not telling you how to play. I just don't like extra turn spells. But this 10 mana mono blue sorcery says that target player doesn't take a singular extra turn, they take 2 extra turns with this here Time Stretch. It's 10 mana, making it a great target for us to exile from our hand with Jacob Hauken to cast for free later, get 2 additional turns. And definitely make the table, at least, let out a deep sigh, and at most, they might just flip it. Also, the art's cool, and if you're gonna be a sweaty extra turn taker, you can do it for $5 and you get 2 of them off this thing. Oh, Bojack Guy! Hey, good to see you, Bojack Guy. You want us to run that Lighthouse Chronologist. Lighthouse Chronologist. Lighthouse Chronologist is a 1-drop with level up. We level it up for 1 blue mana, and at the beginning, and when we level it up all the way, so we're going to spend 2, 3, 4, 5 total mana into this thing. It'll give us an upkeep trigger, excuse me, at the beginning of our end step. If it's not your turn, take an extra... That's fucking disgusting. I hate that. Okay. I hate this so much. This could be an extra turn deck if we want to, I don't know, destroy Joy at the LGS. That's personally not my vibe. I've seen this thing a few times. It is very sweaty. It's $20. It's a great card. It'll definitely get you multiple extra turns. But, you know, it's not for my play group, that's for sure. Alright, Time Stretch has me finna bus. Really, Swizzle Stick? You love extra turn, Swizzle Stick? Time Stop to end those extra turns. Time Stop. Time Stop. Time Stop. Time Stop. What the heck is Time Stop? Time Stop is a 6 mana blue instant, end the turn. Period, full stop, your turn is now over. This is silly, goofy, the art's pretty cool. So what this means, I'm really glad this thing has reminder text. Exile all spells and abilities, including this spell. That player whose turn it is discards down to their max hand size, damage heals, and this turn and until end effects end. Cool. This thing's cool. It's 6 mana. We definitely don't want to exile it with Jacob Hauken, because I'm pretty sure Hauken's Insight only works, and we only cast stuff. Yeah, we're only able to cast stuff off the enchantment side of our Jacob Hauken when it's our turn. So instants wouldn't be a good idea to exile underneath it. But this thing, just stopping other turns, that's perfectly fine too. Rhystic Study! Kiki's a badass, wants us to run the Rhystic Study. Rhystic Study, also known as the best piece of card draw in the Commander format, is a blue 3-drop enchantment. Excuse me. It says whenever an opponent plays a spell, you may draw a card, unless they pay the 1. And I want to know, chat, do you pay the 1? In fact, my most recent video was about this card, Rhystic Study. I used green screen effects and other drama to talk about it, and I urge you to pay the 1. I have lost so many Commander games because I didn't pay for Rhystic Study. Be responsible. Pay your taxes is what I would suggest, because card advantage is one of those things that's so hard to measure how effective it is, you know? Like, you don't, like, whatever card they draw could be the card that makes you lose that game. So I'd recommend paying for the Rhystic Study. Beautiful Beard Mike! Hello, Beautiful Beard Mike! Welcome, Beautiful Beard Mike. What do you say? Days Undoing. I like Days Undoing. When I first started playing Magic, I bought a bunch of Magic Origins packs, and I opened a Days Undoing, and I didn't realize that it was not good in my deck. It's a 3-drop sorcery. It's $3. Each player shuffles his or her hand and graveyard into their library and then draws 7 cards. And if it's our turn when we're doing Days Undoing, we end the turn. It's cool. I used to run a Days Undoing in a blue-red Locust God draw card deck because it would help me not draw out my entire deck. It shuffles your library into your graveyard. It's cool if you're doing mass draw, is it stuff, or if you're drawing a ton of cards, this thing will save you from decking yourself out. It's pretty cool. Would recommend. JC, you should play Liar's Pendulum. Let's talk about Liar's Pendulum. I'm not familiar with the Liar's Pendulum. Liar's Pendulum sounds like an artifact. It's colorless. It's $1 or 80 cents. It's 1 mana, and it's got a 2 mana activated ability where we pay 2, we tap this thing. And we name a card. Target opponent guesses whether a card with the name is in your hand. You may reveal your hand. If you do, and your opponent guessed wrong, draw a card. I kind of love this, honestly. It feels really thematic with Jacob Hauken because of the way Jacob Hauken works is that we activate him to draw a card and exile a card face down. So Jacob Hauken already has a hidden information kind of game going on with him. So we could use this Liar's Pendulum to kind of lean into that theme. And yeah, we'll use the other side of Jacob Hauken to play free big spells. I like this. This feels very thematic. This feels like a flavor win to me. Excellent suggestion, JC. Thank you very much. Uh-oh, uh-oh. There it is. Okay, cool, we found the window. I'm not used to running multiple windows like this. This is the first time we've done a flip commander. Donald Herald of Wings. Donald Herald of Wings. I'm not familiar with a Donald Herald of Wings. Donald Herald of Wings is not a card I'm familiar with. Unfortunately, if it's outside of our color identity, it will not come up. But we'll try Herald of Wings. Maybe Herald of Wings will come up. Donald Herald of Wings, excuse me, Donald, my mistake, I spelled that wrong. Donald Herald of Wings is a human wizard. It's a 3/3 for 4 mana and mono blue. When you cast a non-legendary creature spell with flying, you may copy it. Except the copy is a 1/1 spirit in addition to its other types. I kind of like this. Honestly, this feels perfectly viable to me. You could just make a blue Flyers deck that makes copies of things. Honestly, I feel like this deck could be really a lot of fun, actually. I don't think I've seen Donald before. He's only $1. The art's a vibe. He's an old man in the park that feeds the birds. This is pretty cool. I like it. I actually like this a lot, actually. Yeah, you could do like, you could just do mono blue flyer commander. This feels perfectly fine. And if those things have triggers or abilities, you get the little 1/1s, you use them for abilities. I kind of want to build Donald now. Honestly, Donald's a vibe. Ooh, definitely not Liam wants us to run that Sensei's Divining Top. Is Sensei's Divining Top a game changer? I feel like it should be. Sensei's Divining Top is a $35 little 1-drop colorless enchantment, and it's got 2 activated abilities. The first ability, for 1 mana, has you look at the top 3 cards of your library and put them back in any order. The first ability is colloquially known as spinning the top. To look at the top 3, reorder them, that's known as spinning the top. And then to tap 1, draw a card, then put Sensei's Divining Top on top of its owner's library. Sensei's Divining Top is a card synonymous with some commander. It's often seen in higher levels of play. Artifact Storm builds love Sensei's Divining Top, and if there's enough cost reduction in their deck, Sensei's Divining Top actually becomes a win con. Especially with a card called Mystic Forge that lets you pay artifacts off the top. Excuse me, play artifacts off the top. To play on the secretive theme, some blue foretell stuff. Yeah, let's talk about As Foretold. So I imagine the way that we win in a Jacob Hauken deck is that we have a ton of, like, probably, honestly, it's probably going to be Eldrazi Tribal. We want to have some big, beefy bodies. We're running Omniscience. We're running Mind's Dilation. We're running other big blue permanents and effects. And As Foretold, in the late game, if we can get As Foretold to hang out on the battlefield for a while, it can help cast some free big boys too as well, because As Foretold, 3-drop enchantment, 60 cents, Doctor Who version. At the beginning of your upkeep, you put a time counter on As Foretold, and once during your turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay the cost for spells if you got enough time counters on them. Yeah, so where the mana value is X or less, where X is the number of time counters as Foretold. It's cool, it's great. It's a commitment, though. If your As Foretold comes out in the late game, it doesn't do a whole lot for you. Pongify! Alright, Gunnar wants us to run that Pongify. Pongify is an excellent little piece of removal. It's great. It's 1 mana. It's instant speed. It's a 1 mana instant speed, destroy target creature. And they make a little 3/3 green ape creature token. It's a 1 mana destroy target creature in blue. It's weird. The art is very aggressive. This guy needs to go to a dentist. It's very cool. It's really, really good. The lower the cost of your removal, the better. And the more instant speed your removal, the better. And this thing is both. It can't be cheaper unless it was free. And also, yeah, don't worry about giving your opponent a 3/3, especially if you're blowing up their commander. A vanilla 3/3 ain't gonna do junk in commander. Ulamog the Infinite Gaia. Let's talk about Ulamog the Infinite Gaia. I believe this is the expensive Ulamog. Ulamog the Infinite Gaia. I think is this the XL Library one? The Infinite Gaia. Ulamog the Infinite Gaia is 11 mana. I think you cast it and you destroy something. There's so many Ulamogs floating around these days. Yeah, it's cool. And also, whenever Ulamog is put into a graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffles it into its and their graveyard into their library. Cool. So also, these are referred to as Shuffle Titans. Shuffle Titans are kind of like little insurance cards you keep in your deck to be a big annihilating 10/10. But also, if someone's playing a mill strategy and they keep milling your Ulamog and it keeps shuffling your library, it's almost like you can never be milled. It's almost like you can never be milled. It's real good. All right, hey, Equinox Paradox, it's so good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. You want us to run that Crab Umbra? Crab Umbra is not a card I'm familiar with. Crab Umbra sounds like an aura. It's definitely an aura. It's definitely blue, and it probably makes your commander have a little bit of a bigger toughness, if I would imagine what crabs are in MTG. Unfortunately, our connection is so shitty that we can't even load this Crab Umbra. Hey, it's a horseshoe crab. I saw one of them today. Crab Umbra, 1 mana, enchantment, aura, enchant creature. You got an activated ability where you pay 3 mana and you untap the enchanted creature. This is really because we want to exile a bunch of cards with Jacob Hauken, because on Jacob's flip side, we get the enchantment that lets us cast a free 1 for free. excuse me, a 1 for free each turn. So we want to have big spells that we're exiling with Jacob's activated ability right here, and then we're going to flip Jacob into this little legendary enchantment, and we're going to get a free spell each turn. Yeah, cool. And now we have a way to untap Jacob. Great suggestion, Equinox. Appreciate it. Ooh, Games by Gunther wants us to see the truth. See the truth is not a card I'm familiar with, Gunther. What you got, Gunther? See the truth. The Art Survived. Looks just Kai. Core set 21. 2 mana mono blue sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put one of those cards into your hand. Put the rest onto the bottom of your library in any order. If the spell was cast from anywhere other than your hand, put each of those cards into your hand instead. Okay, this is pretty cool. So if we can exile this thing with Jacob Hauken, we can get a free draw 3 cards once we cast it with the enchantment side. If not, we're still just drawing 1 card for 2 mana at sorcery speed, except we're looking at 3 cards and we're picking the best one. So even if we're not exiling it to get 3 cards off of Jacob by exiling the See the Truth, we can still get a little bit of card selection and look at the top 3. And that still feels pretty good for me. Thank you, Games by Gunther, for the suggestion. That definitely fits in here. Null Elemental Blast. Null Elemental Blast. Null Elemental Blast is a card. It came out in MH3, and it says that it's 1 colorless pip. So notice, it must needs be remarked that this thing has a colorless pip in its casting cost, meaning that you can't tap an island to produce this mana. You have to have an artifact, or you need to have a land that produces specifically colorless mana, or you can't cast this thing legally. You choose one. You counter target multicolored spell. That's perfectly viable. Most commanders are multicolored. Or you destroy a target multicolored permanent. Also viable. Again, most commanders are multicolored. This is just a good little instant speed, little piece of removal. Feels really good in commander game. It only really fizzles out if you're playing against other monocolored decks, and honestly, how often do you see that? Pretty playable. Also 50 cents, instant speed, single mana. Very good suggestion. Alright, Kiki, you want us to run that Spectral Deluge. Spectral Deluge is not a card I'm familiar with. It's a 6. Okay, this art goes so fucking. This card, very cool looking art. We got a 6 mana sorcery. Return each creature your opponent's control with toughness X or less to their hand, where X is the number of islands you control. We're in mono blue, so this is going to be a one-sided board wipe. We can also foretell this card. So we can foretell this card. We can pay 2 mana. Exile it face down. Again, thematic with our hidden information theme with Jacob Hauken. And yeah, we can cast it for 3 mana instead of 6 at a later turn. This feels really good to me. And also, that art is so cool. I can't really tell what's going on in the art, but it's got a very dark vibe. I like it. Very good art. Thank you, Kiki. Okay, Zombie wants us to run that Karn Liberated. Karn Liberated is a card. It came out in March of the Machines. Oh wait, this isn't March of the Machines. This is Karn Liberated. It's the 7 mana colorless walker. It has 3 activated abilities. +4, target player exiles a card from their hand. -3, exile target permanent. -14, restart the game, leaving in exile all non-aura permanent cards exiled with this thing, and then put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. This thing's cool. You can legally play this card in Commander. I would probably ask you not to, but, you know, it's a 7-drop. We can cheat it out into play with Jacob Hauken. And if we're not going to start a mini Commander game within a Commander game, I'm perfectly fine with that. We can use it for removal. We can also exile things from our opponent's hands if we're in the late game and they're hellbent. We can keep stuff out of their hands with it. It's 7 mana. It's a great thing to cheat out. I really hope none of our opponents let us get to that 14, though. Jeez. Hidden Strings! I love Hidden Strings. I love Cypher. Cypher is one of my favorite mechanics. It's just so different. It's so different from everything else going on. Hidden Strings is a 2-drop sorcery. You may tap or untap target permanent, and then you may tap or untap another permanent. So untap or tap 2 things. One of those things is probably going to be our commander, because we want to activate Jacob a bunch of times, exile a bunch of cards face down with him. That way we can cast them for free with the enchantment Hawken's Insight. This thing, though, has Cypher, which meaning After you resolve it, then you may exile the spell card and code it on a creature you control. Meaning that it's kind of like an aura in exile attached to the creature, that whenever the creature that has the cipher deals combat damage, we get to cast a free copy of Hidden Strings. There's a ton of other cipher cards that I love. Most of them are blue. One of them is called Stolen Identity. We'll pull up Stolen Identity right quick. Stolen Identity is another cipher card. It's 6 mana, and it says you create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature. Cipher. So whenever we deal combat damage, we can get another copy of this thing. Keep making very spicy, complex tokens. I like that quite a bit. Yeah, and that's Stolen Identity. Card did not come out in Mother of Machines. New Phyrexia old school. I'm sorry, I'm talking about Karn after March of the Machines Aftermath. I was talking about Aftermath Karn. My bad, Kiki's a badass. Frostace! It's so good to see you, Frostace. How have you been? Frostace has been doing live deck building with me since I pretty much started the show. It's so good to see you, dude. Let's talk about Adric, Mathematical Genius, 2-drop legendary from Doctor Who. He's a human artificer, 1/1. Pay 3 mana, tap him, copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. And this man makes the ultimate sacrifice with this very poor haircut, because you can pay 2, sacrifice Adric, and counter target activated or triggered ability. He also has Doctor's Companion, so if you want to run British people in the command zone, he can come too. He's pretty cool. He reminds me a little bit of like a Strionic Resonator in blue, except you got to pay more mana into the copy triggers because you got to pay 3 and also tap him. He's a little bit of an intensive mana investment, but he's pretty cool. He is a Strionic Resonator that can also act like a counter to triggered and activated abilities, which is cool. If you're about to die to a triggered or activated abilities, absolutely sacrifice this British human artificer. Yeah. Grayscale, good to see you too. Also, thank you so much for noticing my haircut, Grayscale. I appreciate it. I'm so good to hear you've been doing good. Oh, you're sorting through your collection? Me too, brother, all the time. All right, we got Adric, Eluge, Gunner. I like Eluge. I actually built Eluge, and I was gonna buy Eluge, and I'm like, it feels sweaty. Let's talk about Eluge. He's 3 blue pips and 1 generic. He's an elemental fish. He's pulling up to the port as a star power toughness. His power and toughness are each equal to the number of islands you control, and you can make things islands, because this thing, whenever it enters or attacks, you put a flood counter on target land. It's an island in addition to its other types for as long as it has a flood counter on it. And the first instant sorcery spell you cast each turn costs a blue pip less to cast for each land you control with a flood counter on it. It's very cool. I was going to build it using a keyword called Island Walk, meaning that anybody who has an island can't block the creature. And because Eluge gives people islands by plopping down flood counters, it's very fun. And then once you got a few counters on things, and you can cast your big instants and sorceries at a massive cost reduction with our fish. I don't know. Eluge seemed fun. Has anybody built Eluge? Let me know. I want to know. Are you having a good time? I'm looking at him, and I'm like, you're $5. He's a fish. It could be very cool. Also, his field notes art is very cool looking. While I'm here, I'm going to suggest Commit to Memory. Let's talk about Commit to Memory. Commit to Memory is a... Oh, I like this card. I really like the... What are they called? Aftermath? Yeah, the Aftermath instants and sorceries I like a lot, actually. This one says that you put target spell or non-land permanent into its owner's library, second from the top. We got a little bit of crunchy removal here. We can get rid of an attacker, or we can kind of act like a counter spell and put it away for a turn or two. Or we can Aftermath this thing for 6 mana. We can only Aftermath the sorcery from the graveyard. Each player shuffles their hand and graveyard into their library and then draws 7 cards. That's pretty good, honestly. If we are out of cards, or if we are afraid of decking ourselves out, we can use Memory to put our graveyard back into our library, protect ourselves from mill, potentially. Could be very cool. I like this thing. It's interaction. It's multiple pieces of interaction. If you know your opponent's tutored for something, you could wheel with this thing and get rid of whatever they tutored for if they didn't immediately cast it. That could be pretty cool. I like this thing, and it's also only 50 cents. And also, another thing I like about it is it's multiple spells, right? So that instant, that's still pretty impactful. That felt like it might be worth running even if it didn't have Aftermath. But because it has Aftermath, it can be another spell that provides you card draw. And I really like that. Running out of spells in Commander feels bad. You're about to build a luge, Gunner? I'm kind of jelly, Gunner. Gunner, will you play it with me at some point during the weekend? I wanna see it. I wanna see your fish, bro. Sick. All Runs Epiphany. Let's talk about All Runs Epiphany, suggested by Kiki the Badass. Excuse me, Kiki the Badass. All Runs Epiphany sounds like it's from Kaldheim. I think All Run is a... Yeah, he's like the version of Odin on the Kaldheim plane. It's a 7-mana sorcery, and we're going to be exiling it and casting it for free with our Jacob Hauken. You create 2 1/1 bird tokens with flying, and we take an extra turn after this one, and we exile All Runs Epiphany. We can also foretell it and cast it for 6 later. It's cool. It's definitely very Odin-coded. I know a little bit about Norse mythology because of the Assassin's Creed franchise and also the God of War franchise. This thing is a reference to Odin's 2 ravens, Hjolnir and Mjolnir. Please correct me, it's not Mjolnir. It's like, it's an H thing and an M thing, and it's the name of Odin's ravens that he uses to spy on people. It's very cool. They fit that really good into the thematic setting of Kaldheim. I like it. Also, it's an extra turn spell, so ew, sweaty, but pretty cool. Also, if we can cast it for free off Jacob Hauken, 10 out of 10. I recommended Inkwell Leviathan. Inkwell Leviathan would also be so good in an Eluge deck. Let's talk about Inkwell Leviathan. Inkwell Leviathan is a 9-mana mono blue artifact creature Leviathan. This is a 7/11 Trampley Island Walk. Island Walk was that keyword I mentioned a couple cards ago when we were talking about that elemental fish Eluge. And it's got Shroud. This creature can't be the target of spells or abilities. It must need be remarked about the keyword Shroud. This counts for us as well. We can't target this things with instants, auras, any of our own abilities. We cannot target our own Leviathan if it's got Shroud. Also, the art on this thing is so sick. It's so cool. I think this is the first time that I realized that this thing is an artifact creature. If you guys are familiar with the Mimeoplasm is a Sultai graveyard strategy. And when I first started playing Commander, one of my friends built a hardcore Mimeoplasm deck. And one of the ways he gave the Mimeoplasm unblockable was by exiling an Inkwell Leviathan and making it a copy of it. Freed from the Real. Freed from the Real is a great card. It's often seen in infinite mana combos, but we're not doing that today. It's a 3-drop aura that has 2 activated abilities where we can tap the creature or we can untap the creature. It's great in Jacob Hauken because Jacob Hauken works off the activated ability where we tap him, we draw a card, and we exile a card face down. And then once we pay 6 mana after we activate Jacob, we can flip him into his Hauken's Insight, which is a legendary enchantment that exiles a card from the top of our library at our upkeep. And then we can cast 1 free thing or play a free land from our exiled cards with Jacob per turn, but it has to be our turn. And this is a little Freed from the Real that can help us untap Jacob, exile a bunch of cards real quick because we just got to pay 1 mana to untap Jacob. It's kind of like draw a card, exile a card for 1 blue once we got Freed from the Real on our commander. It's real good, y'all. It reminds me a little bit of Pemin's Aura, which is another way to make infinite mana super easily. Jin-Gitaxias. So we talked about Jin-Gitaxias. Not coming up. All right. Jin-Gitaxias, Core Augur. It's a game changer. It says that your opponent's hand size is reduced by 7. It's also got Flash, meaning that your opponents are likely going to flash it out during your upkeep to force you to discard your hand and have a bad time. It's a game changer for that reason, but if you have like a Reliquary Tower, if you have anything that says that you have an no max hand size, this thing doesn't do shit to you. So yeah, it's cool. Honestly, I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't seen it a whole lot. Nezahal, Primal Tide. Hell yeah, Nezahal is a great include. Nezahal, Primal Tide came out in the not Lost Caverns of Ixalan, but Rivals of Ixalan a few years prior. It's a 7 mana, 7/7 Elder Dinosaur that can't be countered, and it gives us no max hand size. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, we get to draw ourselves a card. We can discard 3 cards. We can exile this thing and return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. This thing's very cool. The art is so good on this thing. I love the art on this card. It's one of the very last legendary creatures to not be printed with a legend crown, because it's from the Rivals of Ixalan set. It's very cool. It's an old dinosaur that swims. The art is the art's so good. This card is so good. A friend of mine has this as a mono blue commander, and it slaps. Honestly, he just fills it with rocks and like Mind Stylation and other things and plays other people's decks. It's a vibe. I like Nezahal. Not that one, the other one? Fibblethip Lost on the Range. So we talked about Fibblethip the Lost, but we'll talk about Fibblethip Lost on the Range. If you guys are not familiar with Fibblethip, Fibblethip is an onomatopoeia and also a homunculus character in Magic the Gathering. It's the onomatopoeia for the sound that cards make when you flick them against a table. That's Fibblethip. It's a Ward 2 3-drop from Thunder Junction, mono blue. You may look at the top card of your library anytime, and the top card of your library has plot. The plot cost is equal to its mana cost. You may plot non-land cards from the top of your library. Plotting means that you pay the cost, and then on a different turn, you can cast the spell for free. It's kind of like Foretell, except a lot more aggressive mana-wise, because you're casting it for free on a later turn. It's very cool. I like plotting stuff. There's a few cards that, like Kellen has a good plot, I think. It's Kellen? Oh, Jin Gitaxias, not the Game Changer one? You don't want us to run the Game Changer one? My bad, Gunther. Jin Gitaxias, or the artist formerly known as Jin Gitaxias. This one is the flip one. It's a 5-drop mono blue Ward 2 5/5. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell with mana value 3 or greater, we get to draw ourselves a card. Pay 4, exile Jin Gitaxias, return to the battlefield on its Saga side, and we activate only as a sorcery and only if you have 7 more cards in your hand. So once we got 7 or more cards in our hand, we can flip him into the Great Synthesis. This 3-step saga says that the first step, we draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no max hand size for as long as you control the Great Synthesis. Then on the second step, we return all non-Phyrexian creatures to their owner's hands. Yikes on trikes. Alright. And then on the third step, you may cast any number of spells from your hand without paying their mana costs. Exile the Great Synthesis, and it becomes Jin Gitaxias again. It is very cool. This thing, if we are filling our hand with bomby-ass bombs, because that's what we're filling our Jacob deck with, then we can resolve the saga. If we can get this thing to its third step, we cast all our bombs, and we probably win the game outright at that point. We probably just need a few turns to attack. This thing's very good, yo. It's $8. It's aggressively costed at 5 mana. You activate it for 4 on a different turn. It flips into the saga. The saga draws you a bunch of cards, give you no max hand size while it exists, bounces all non-Phyrexian creatures, and then you shit out all the free stuff in your hand. It's so good, actually. I don't think I've ever actually read this card all the way through, but it's hella good. Who put that in there? Games by Gunther. Great suggestion. All right, what do we got on Twitch? Vizier of Tumbling Sand. All right, we're taking it. We're playing another extra turn card. Let's talk about Vizier of Tumbling Sands. Suggested by Zombie Kidney over on Twitch. The Vizier of Tumbling Sands is a mono blue 3-drop little human cleric. It's got an activated ability, and where we untap another target permanent. Oh, good. I thought this was the extra turn things. But don't mind me. I get poopy about extra turns. All right. This thing can untap another target permanent. Another great untapper for our commander. It can cycle itself to draw a card and discard a card if we don't need it. Or if we've already flipped our commander into his enchantment version, we probably don't want this thing on the battlefield, and we can cycle it for a little bit of card draw. Then, when you cycle this thing, you untap target permanent. 10 out of 10! So we can untap something else if we have something we want to untap. This thing's great, actually. It's also a 40-cent common. This is really good, actually. Great card. Great card. Good little untapper. It also untaps any permanent. So if we get, like, I don't know, a Thran Dynamo or a card that taps for multiple mana, we can use this thing to untap it. Very cool. Thank you for the suggestion. Deep Sea Kraken. Deep Sea Kraken. Deep Sea Kraken is not a card I'm familiar with. Deep Sea Kraken. Deep Sea Kraken, Deep Sea Kraken, Deep Sea Kraken, 9 mana, excuse me, 10 mana, or we can suspend 9 for 3. It is unblockable. It's a 6/6. Whenever an opponent plays a spell, if this thing is suspended with a bunch of time counters on it, we can remove a time counter from it. So I imagine the way we play this is either we're going to cheat it out with Jacob Hauken outright to just be a 6/6 body, or we're going to foretell it, we're going to suspend it, have it hang out on the battlefield, let our opponents cast a bunch of spells, remove a bunch of time counters, and then we slam it on the battlefield for free. Pretty cool. I wish it had some keywords other than unblockable, but honestly, unblockable is pretty good, yo. Lear or Lyre. Lyre, Disciple, Lyre? Is it Lyre or Lyre? Disciple of the Drowned. Let's talk about Disciple of the Drowned. The Lear, Disciple of the Drowned, I think he came out... Yeah, he came out in the set adjacent to Jacob. Spells can't be countered. 5-drop. Each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. The flashback cost is equal to that card's mana cost. That's pretty cool. I like that a lot. This guy's $9. He's really good. Like I was saying earlier about that commit to memory card, I hate running out of spells. Running out of spells is a great way to not have a good time playing Commander, in my opinion. This thing, giving all the instants and sorceries in your graveyard flashback, means that you'll still have spells to play even when your hand is empty. Alright guys, that is all the suggestions we have tonight. Alright guys, for the last time tonight, I am BGM or Bigger Gayer Magic. I use green screen effects to make silly little Magic the Gathering content all over the internet. On lives, we do live deck building. Tonight, we were suggested by Ninomoki on my Bigger Gayer Discord server to build Jacob Hauken, the Inspector. We did that. If you want to see any of the cards we slammed into Jacob Hauken, check out the Moxfield page in the link tree on my TikTok profile. And if you want to play Spell Table with me on the weekends, join the Bigger Gayer Discord to get some games in with some large homosexuals. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me during the live. I know it was a little bit of a slower one because Mono Blue doesn't have nearly as many options as other colors. But thank you for hanging out with me, guys. We're going to be going live again tomorrow, and then that's going to be it for me for the week. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope you all